Jessica, are you ready? All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. If everyone would stand for a moment of silence in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Recorder, if you'd call the roll.
Chairman Floyd.
Present.
Vice Chair Harrison.
Here.
Deborah Thomas.
Present.
Jeremy Burnett. Michelle Childs.
Here.
Superintendent Horrell.
We do have a quorum. Mr. Superintendent, would you lead us through our agenda?
I will. The first item on the agenda is the opportunity for public comment.
Would anyone from the public like to speak? Hearing none. Next item. Yes, absolutely. If you would approach the podium and name and address.
We live at 10427 Mount McKenzie Road.
Thank you.
I've emailed all of you, and my concerns are the mask mandates by the Shelby County Health Department. I thank you all for not deciding to enforce a mask mandate on my children, but I was wondering, what is the enforcement plan for our school? Going to comply with the Shelby County Health Department? The strategy? Anything back from the Shelby County Health Department on what the guidance is for when we can stop wearing masks? Plans to get the students outside to avoid having to wear masks all day? Have any kind of to direct towards anyone, but if you guys could.
Those are all fair points, and probably what I will do, I know Dr. Horrell is going to speak to some of those. I'm going to speak to some of those. I've asked our attorney to look into the matter too. So we'll hopefully touch on all those points, and if there's something we don't address, feel free to grab me after the meeting, and I'll be glad to get you an answer, and we'll go from there.
I just listened to the Shelby County Commission's meeting today on my way here, and they specifically said that they do not have the ability to enforce this mandate. So I would encourage us to not comply.
Thank you for your comments. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind jotting down your name and address. Dr. Horrell, next item.
Next item is the chairman's welcome.
I'd like to welcome everyone to our August meeting. It is the first day of school, and it's a new beginning in a way that none of us expected. A lot has changed since the last week. It feels like it's been a long time, but it was actually just last week. As many of you know, the Shelby County Health Department issued a mask mandate effective for all schools in Shelby County, public and private. I've asked, if there's no objection for the board, we may just sort of let this lead into a conversation on this topic right now if there's no objection. I don't see any objection. I've asked Mr. Plumley to kind of look into the health department's authority and what it would mean to comply or not to comply. Mr. Plumley, can you kind of speak to those items and let us know what you've determined or found out? I'll get you to speak into the microphone if you don't mind, or you can go to the podium, whichever's easier.
Health has the authority to issue a mask. What the
What would enforce look like, in your opinion?
I do know that in its own way, which was to say, to wear masks, we're not going to turn anyone away.
you, Mr. Plumley. Since Mr. Plumley spoke, I'll give the board the opportunity to ask Mr. Plumley any questions if they have any on this topic, and then I'll comment a little further. Anything from the board? Hearing, yes. Well, go ahead, Mr. Burnett.
I think my concern is one that this board was founded on, this board's constantly stood on. It's about local control. This school system exists because there were people before me who stood up and fought for local control of our school system. Essentially, what the Shelby County Health Department has done is because Shelby County Schools already decided to mandate masks in their schools. Decided to mandate this for the municipal school systems and the private schools over the decision-making for their local control. Despite how this board might have decided to create a mask mandate or stay mask optional, that ability was removed from this board effectively by an unelected body, which is not the spirit of why we have local control, for local control. So,
Thank you, Mr. Burnett. Any other comments to Mr. Plumley? Go ahead, Ms. Harrison.
I'll echo, I've been doing this for a long time, fighting for Lakeland to have it in school. Founding ideals, and this totally goes in the face of local control. The one thing that I personally feel is that the health department considers certainly the health side of things, and they consider the pandemic, but they don't consider the whole child, which is what we sit up here and do every week, every month, every day that we serve in these positions. There is more to the effects on children than just the actual COVID infection rate and things like that. There are psychological impacts. Personally, I can tell you, when I didn't discuss it with my children, they found out through social media that it was going to happen through their friends and stuff, because I didn't, want to discuss it till certainly their friends and everything knew. My children personally were pretty upset because they were excited to go back this year to see the other children's face. They had a very different last year than they had ever had before. They had missed from March 20. I mean, if you think about it, it's been close to 18 months that they haven't had a regular, embracing, or they certainly understand that it's a mandate, they have to follow it, but they were not excited about what it meant for their school year, because it doesn't just, in their eyes, doesn't just stop at a mask mandate. Like, oh, now I'm gonna have to go to having class in the hallway. Now I'm gonna have to go to where I only, see my teacher 3 days a week. Now I'm gonna struggle with doing my education online. So it psychologically impacts children in a way in which I don't think the health department is considering. And we sit up here and every time we have a conversation, what's in the best interest of the child and its whole child. It's not just one aspect. So that's my big concern with how this is being handled. It's not done through a partnership. It's not done through a discussion. The health department didn't contact our superintendent and say, please tell us what impact this would have on your school system. Please come and have a conversation about what this will do to your children, what it has done to your children. We were just told you have to do this. So that is, the approach is, I just think, wrong. It's not a partnership. So many other things that go into children's lives than just one aspect.
Thank you, Ms. Harrison. So as it relates, and I should have said this at the very beginning, the current mandate has a sunset provision of August 31st. Whether or not that gets renewed, who knows, but currently it's set to expire 8/31. As it relates to who has authority to amend, terminate, modify this order, there's essentially the health department can do it, and outside that, the only other body is the state legislature through some sort of law that gets passed. So that's kind of where we are. Having said that, we did have school today, and With the exception of mask, it felt like a normal school year. I got complaints about buses being late and, those type of first day things that we always get. And I know Dr. Horrell will speak to that as we move forward. And we'll go ahead and move to the next item, Dr. Horrell.
Okay. I don't believe there's a TLN representative update, or is
No.
there? Okay. Next item is the superintendent's report. What I can report, and always have the delight of reporting, this board meeting traditionally follows on the first day of school, is that we are back in school, and we are intended to be in school. That's why we exist. We exist to make sure we can take care of the students of Lakeland, and it's always exciting to see them coming back in. And by all accounts and by my own observations, it was a smooth first day of school, and kind of the way I've described it is it looked and felt like the first day of school, with the exception of our students and teachers were wearing masks today. You could still sense the excitement. You could still see the smiles. We talk about smiling eyes and students and that kind of nervousness that's also kind of sweet, especially in the younger students as they traipse into the building, some of them for the first time. I will say that I want to acknowledge how frustrating it was for our parents and for the community and for the teachers and for the administrators, certainly for the board members, to have a change like the mask mandate happen in the manner that it did, and particularly with as little notice as we had. And I do want to explain partially in response to your questions, but just to kind of give some ideas of where we come at this from. Our collective understanding prior to the Shelby County Health Department's order was that there were two organizations that could mandate masks in schools. One was the Lakeland School System Board of Education, and the other was the Shelby County Health Department. That was our understanding prior to there being a mask mandate. I think the community knows, and you all know, the Lakeland School System Board of Education had declined to issue a mask mandate as a board. That left the Shelby County Health Department, and they did decide to issue a school-wide mandate. So we had done some homework on the front end to find out if they did do a mandate, would we be under that order, and would it be in the school system's best interest? Kind of was part of the question to comply with that order, and the feeling was it would be. At this point, my understanding is that now that one of the school systems that Mr. Plumley mentioned has changed their stance, it appears that all 6 of the municipal school systems intend to enforce the order. And at some point, to ask what does that look like, which was a very legitimate question. At some point, once we get to, they have the authority to do it, the order is in place, it's time to start school, we have to make decisions about what is the least disruptive for the school environment. And right now, I'm pleased to report that the first day of school, we did not have issues with compliance. I was in both buildings during the very minute that the first school bell rang. We were prepared for, issues of compliance or folks that were too upset to put their, students in masks and those kind of things, and we didn't see that, fortunately. And I want to thank the Lakeland community, and I want to thank the parents, because I believe that reflects, the understanding that most people have of what this situation actually is. This is not a decision of the principals. This was not a decision of the school board. This, in this case, was not my decision. This was something that happened, and the parents got on board, and the kids and the parents complied today, and we didn't run into any issues at all that I'm aware. So I appreciate parents getting on board with that, regardless of their thoughts, and I know there are many different thoughts. We know that. But at the end of the day, we did not have a first day of school that was disrupted by conflict or discourse or things like that. We had, again, a great first day of school, an exciting first day of school that happened to have the students in masks. In terms of the question about what is our intention at this point, our intention is to enforce the mask mandate, and we've asked teachers and the administrators to do that. We never had, I do want to note, we never had any issues last year with compliance with our own decision to mandate masks last year based on the information we had then. And my hope is that the school year continues. And my hope is that the mask mandate does sunset at the end of August. That's certainly our hope. And my hope is that we continue to have days like we had today, where students are in school and we're able to focus on teaching and learning. So it's a difficult position to be in, particularly for the administrators and teachers in the building. And again, I want to thank everybody who made that a little bit easier for them today. And hopefully, again, that's because of the understanding of the situation itself.
Childs.
Dr. Earl or Mr. Plumley, did the Shelby County Health Department allude to any kind of concrete guidelines or measurements they're looking for on at what point they will remove the mandatory mask mandate?
In the meeting, that was kind of well, I guess it was the meeting that they had with us when they had already made the decision to do it, but had not been released yet. That there was conversation about reevaluating it. At that point, they had talked about Labor Day, and I guess they settled on August 31st. So I think there is kind of widespread, I don't know if you call it belief, prediction, speculation that that this peak that has gone up so quickly will also go down very quickly. And if that happens, I think there seemed to be an indication that they wouldn't renew it, but I don't, that would be up to them.
I do have a question. So I know, like, they were finally, at some point during this process, they were very methodical about once this factor got here. I'm sure the other superintendents also have those same questions. And I know y'all talk and work together. Can y'all come together and come up with some very pointed questions that each of the superintendents can collaborate on to almost pin them down? Because certainly August 31st can come and go, and they can extend it just like that and call it within 30 minutes. So I would like to go on record, at least for our school system, and I'm assuming the others would as well, to try to say there should be, just like before, there was factors, there was, the R naught rate and all those kinds of things as to when we would do the things we do. So I feel like it should be data driven, and not just we feel like it should be that way. And if we could express that however we need to, that's appropriate and respectful, certainly, but that there should be not just we feel like it should be this way.
That's a good, appropriate, and fair question, and I can definitely, the representatives from the health department, or the leadership of the health department, for sure.
Mr. Burnett.
Add to what Ms. Harrison said, the idea of transparency. Are upset that this has been forced upon emails, wherever you land on the mask, optional or mask required. And so people who want to see that done differently should reach out to their state legislators. Here in our area, that's Tom Leatherwood. Rose, I almost forgot Mr. Rose's last name. And I would give you their email addresses here, but I don't remember what they are.
Thomas.
So we were just talking about,